FNR, Football Nation Radio.
Kondarios, no call! Score!
Salamini for Cole. Cole on the run. Shoots. 2-0.
Lazanovsky with the free kick. Launches a rocket! Trimboli, what vision! Blasts. Yes! Heads it!
Miljevic.
Beautiful ball! Here's Bozanic. They might have won it!
The Pioneers with George Danikian and George Kotzanis on FNR, Football Nation Radio.
G1 and G2, it's a Thursday night, it's the Pioneers, and our Pioneer was born in a place called Florina in Greece way back in October of 1951, so I've got to remember to be most discerning and respectful because he's my senior. That doesn't happen often. But it took him a while. I think he was 13 before he decided to come to Australia.
Did he decide to come to Australia?
Well, we're going to find out.
Okay.
Let's make him very welcome. He'll tell us his story. I'm wondering why he never played for Hellas. Jim Kondarios.
Very good, George.
Carlos Severica.
Carlos Severica.
Sit a little bit closer. A little bit closer.
Okay, mate. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation to be here. George.
Don't be silly. The best part of this opportunity is we get to meet Marie, your wife.
Just be careful because the Greeks destroyed a country of a woman.
Ah, yeah, you're right. Yes, 1,000 ships were launched for Helen.
That's right.
I do remember. Okay, I'll be very careful. Now, why did it take you to the time you were 13? You were born in 51. Were things so good in Florina you didn't make it till 64 or what? To Australia or what?
No, George. My father came in 62 and he had to save some money to buy a house.
Took a couple of years to get the money.
Yeah, and we lived in the village, so it was a good life.
It would have
for
been
us.
beautiful.
Yeah, not for my mother though, because food wasn't as abundant.
Correct. It was just recovering after the war.
Yeah.
Things were very tough. The Greek Civil War had caused Greece even more problems.
Yeah, well, actually, I cried all the way to the bus. I didn't want to come.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What had you heard about Australia?
It was too far away. And there were
No.
Aborigines running around the streets.
No.
Naked people. But
No.
yeah, well, that's what I heard.
You heard. You heard wrong. They do that at St Kilda now, but not in the 50s and 60s. Oh, goodness me. So you arrive in Australia. It's you're 13. It's March 1964. It's pre-decimal.
Well,
Gee, we were still pounds, shillings and pence.
yeah, well, I
Like
found
you must have. Do you remember?
on the ship. I found a.
Pound.
It wasn't a pound. It was a penny. It was huge, and I thought it was worth a fortune.
It's a penny, mate. But actually, a penny
Pick it
in
up.
1964 would have been okay. You could buy some sweets for a penny. Yeah.
I went to get a haircut. They said, no, you need another 3 of those.
There you go. Threepence. So you arrived 13. Where did you land?
At Port of Melbourne.
Station Pier.
Yeah, Station Pier.
Okay. What was the name of the ship? Can you remember?
Patrice.
The Patrice.
We've had about 3 players
Wow.
who've come through, at least 3. I think Jakubanovic was on there, and we've had a couple who come on the Patrice.
It brought quite a few people from Europe to Australia. So where did you land? Other than where did you go to first? Did Dad have a house?
Yeah,
organised?
he had a house. He bought one in Richmond for £3,500.
See that? He
Yeah.
bought one. G2. He didn't muck around.
Yeah.
He's been in the country since '62 and he bought a house.
Cash, Greeks,
Cash.
buy.
Sorry,
done.
cash.
Cash.
Well, we got off the boat, got a taxi because my dad was told that the boat was arriving the next day. So we were waiting on there. We were the last one to get off the boat. So we got a taxi, and he was Greek, of course. So he took us to Richmond, and I was looking at the cottages along Burnley Street, and I thought, oh my God, I hope it's not one of these. Because we lived in 1 acre of land in the village, plenty of open space. And I thought these were close together, and I thought, nah. Anyway,
Beautiful old cottages of Richmond. You didn't like them.
no. He stopped at the corner of our street, and he said, I think we're lost. He didn't look up to see the name, so he took out his road map.
These
He said,
Melways.
yeah. He said, oh no, we're here. So he went around, the street, and he said, "You wait in a taxi, and I'll go and knock on the door."
The meter, was it still going?
Of course.
Of course.
He's Greek.
Greek
Yeah.
taxi cab. Yeah, love it. Okay.
So he went and knocked on the door, and nobody was home because my dad got the message that we arrived. So from the Cafeneo, he ran straight to the boat. But he told the neighbours, which were Greeks, of course, that to keep an eye in case we turned up. As if we turned up, they came over, they took us to their house, and as soon as we sat down, my dad arrived. So, yeah, that was exciting.
Welcome to Australia.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Well, it was hard to imagine, where we come from. We never had any lights or tap water or anything like that. To come down here, it was a bit hard to get used to at the beginning. Then I had to go to school,
Wow.
and I finished
English. Did you speak much English? No.
ice cream.
Ice cream.
Yeah.
Ice cream, you scream, I want ice cream.
That was the first word I learned because my dad had 3 money boxes with pennies, and I had pennies,
Bravo.
and the milk bar was just 3 doors down.
Perfect.
And I'd go about 4 times a day. Ice cream.
And just for the kids who are listening, who are a bit younger, a milk bar is what we call a shop. That's where you go to get food
Correct.
and
Correct. And we should
ice
add,
creams and lollies.
if we were in New Zealand, it's called a dairy.
Right, eh?
Right.
I thought you just say milk
No,
bar.
a milk bar. A milk bar in New Zealand's called a dairy.
Okay.
And I remember saying to a New Zealand friend of mine, mate, I only want a bottle of milk. I don't need a cow. So anyway, it's fun times. But for you, a real journey of discovery. You've come to Australia, where you thought there were all these naked people running around. It didn't take you too long to realise you wanted to play some football.
Well, at the school, nobody was playing soccer or football.
You're kidding.
So we were just kicking a can of Coke around. Yeah.
Can of Coke around.
And
Couldn't you kick the other football?
well, yes, I got thrown into the football, and I had to buy football boots that looked more like army boots.
Yeah, we had that discussion last week, didn't we?
Correct.
Big high ankles.
Yes.
And my first game I played, I went to market and it went through my hands. I touched it, it went through the goals, and they're all hugging me. And I'm thinking, what did I do? I missed it. But apparently I saved the goal.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
What's your very first soccer memory, though? Like, you recall your actual...
Did you
very
play in
first-
Greece?
Yeah.
We just play in the village in the streets. Yeah. No, we used to go every weekend with my dad. He was a South Melbourne Hellas supporter, so we never missed a game.
How come you didn't play for Hellas?
Well, when we lived in Richmond, Hellas was too far away, and my dad said, "Don't play for the Greeks."
Don't play for the Greeks. So you started, what was it, under 18s, no, under 15s, 16s at Parkville.
Well, it wasn't under; it was a senior team. It was just one of those Sunday leagues.
Oh, okay.
My cousin and uncle played for them, and they
What,
said,
in the 5th Division or something?
Yeah, 5th Division.
Oh, wow.
And we used to go every Sunday. It was enjoyment, because they used to
Social.
They used to bring a slab of beer and drink and play.
What, you were, wait, hang on, you were 13, 14?
I wasn't drinking, George.
You weren't drinking?
No.
All
He
right. So
was-
what position did you play then?
I played the left fullback. That was the only position available.
See, everybody, brilliant,
Not
starts
everybody.
at left
Not
fullback.
everybody. You only just remember the left backs. Trust me, it's not everybody.
Well, my left was only good for standing, but I've learned
And
to
for getting
kick
on
with it.
buses. Yeah.
Excuse me, I always worry when your wife actually laughs louder than anyone else in the room. When you said that your left is for standing, does she know something about your dancing?
I'm
No,
pretty
she
good
said
dancer.
she was a
Oh,
good,
you are
was
a
a
good
good
dancer.
dancer. Yeah.
Bravo.
I've got that.
You've got
I've
that
got that on
story.
record. He was a good dancer.
Yeah.
All right, from Parkville and your Sundays, where did you go to? Why?
Why did it go wrong at Parkville?
Well, we had a big drinking session the night before, and then during the game they brought some more beer, and we got into a scuffle.
No.
So we got fined $50, which was a lot of money for the club. They couldn't afford to pay it. We ended up.
Are we talking $50 or £50?
$50.
Oh, okay. We're now talking
Decimal
69, so
currency.
decimal
Yeah,
currency.
yeah.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, so apparently Carlton United, which was a Greek club, bought us out for $50. And I went for one training and didn't like it. And I was still going to school then. And 2 of my friends decided we'd go and try Croatia. They were training at the Army Barracks at Olympic Park there.
Which is
Okay.
Gosh's paddock now.
Yeah. What is Gosh's,
Yeah.
Gosh's paddock? That's right.
So we went down there and had a training session. They kept me and the other two. They weren't that good, so they were sent home. So I played with under 18s for about a season, and then I was promoted to the reserves. From there I was with the reserves 1 year, and then my first call-up for the first team was against South Melbourne Hellas.
Ooh, a big debut.
That was a night game, and I was so nervous. I think I was going to throw up.
Could you hear any of the Greeks in the crowd saying anything that meant anything to you?
Well, we didn't get out because they cancelled the game. It was raining so heavy, and I was thankful they cancelled it.
So you never found out what it was going to be like to play your first game against the Greeks?
Well, I played the following week because we played the Harry Armstrong Cup, the reserves,
Yep.
the final,
Yep.
on a Saturday, and on a Sunday they put me in the first team. So I played 2 games in the weekend.
Still left back?
No, I was centre half.
No, you were centre.
Who was that senior game against? Do you remember?
That was the South Melbourne, the one they postponed.
Oh, so
yeah.
it was
But
the-
it was during the day, so
No,
yeah.
okay.
So not that much pressure because you could actually see where everyone was.
Well, no,
Being a
because
day game.
I was sitting on the bench and one of the centre halves got injured and I was thrown in, so I had no time to get.
So who was your coach in those days?
It was Mr. Kish. We used to call him Mr. Kish.
Mister. You know?
He's a very respectable man. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. In '72, though, Croatia was expelled from the State League due to some ongoing crowd disturbances. Is that reasonable and fair?
Well, that was a bit unfair because the week before that, South Melbourne had a bigger disturbance than what we had, and nothing happened to them.
But
But the people in charge wanted to see Croatia out.
so the representation at Hellas, the legal representation, was clearly better or better focused than the team at Melbourne Croatia.
Kish.
Well,
Kish. No, it's Kish. That's the coach.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so Croatia's expelled. Where do you go to there?
well, I went to Powerhouse dancing. And,
Powerhouse dancing.
Yeah, down
Are they in a
Albert Park.
competition?
Albert Park.
Albert Park,
Albert
yeah.
Park. Everyone knows
Yeah.
Powerhouse. Come on, Georgie.
Hang on. Had you met your wife, your future wife Marie, at this time?
No, not yet.
Not
No,
yet.
no,
Okay.
She was in the wings.
In the wings. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you go to the Powerhouse. What happens there?
Well, we were talking of going to Sydney to play for Croatia, and they were going to fly me every weekend.
Uh-huh.
But when they came to pick me up, my mother said, "No,
Αποκλείεται.
όχι το παιδί μου."
Not my boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was only 19, and
Only.
well, you know those
We've got
days.
young boys leaving home at 16, 17, 18.
I was a good Greek boy.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. From
Yeah.
Florina.
Anyway, we went to Powerhouse, and Keilor Austria president came and found me at the dance. So I ended up signing for them for a year and a half. Yeah.
Was that an opportunity you enjoyed?
It was good because, you know, there was no politics involved at Keilor Austria.
What a blessing.
I think Croatia was a very professional team. The way it was run, it was very professional. So,
Who were the players who made an impact on you, a young, as you say, 19-year-old boy? Who were the people you looked up to?
well, Jim McKay, Billy Wojtek,
Oh, gee.
Hoss Rowe, you know, I mean, they're all very professional.
But you're also talking about some of the legends of Victoria.
Well,
Team of the century. And
Well, I played with them, and
Yeah.
you know, they always looked after me being the youngest, and
Did they enjoy having a youngster in the crop?
well, there was a lot of youngsters those days. It wasn't just one, but you know, you sort of show them respect because they deserve the respect. And if you show somebody respect, they respect you back.
Fantastic.
Yeah. We always used to have a competition at training before starting, you know, try to hit the tree. That was
But you're a
good
centre
practice,
back.
really.
You don't need to hit the tree, do you?
No, that's true, but it helps when you want a long pass.
Okay, so that was your right foot because your left foot's only for standing.
I was getting better than
Oh,
George.
you were getting better.
was improving.
He keeps moving this argument. here.
I did score a goal against Heidelberg with my left foot.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Did you surprise them and shock the
It
audience?
surprised me.
Was that one of the really, really rare ones?
Well, most of my goals came with the head, so
I was going to
yeah.
say, we're going up
Okay.
the corners and set
Yeah.
pieces.
Okay, so Keilor Austria gets relegated. That means you want to play in the top leagues. So along comes Footscray
Well,
JUST.
before Footscray, Steve Williams from Heidelberg
Came calling.
came calling, and I'd go every day to Smith Street, you know, where he had his shop.
But what shop did he have? Jewelry, shoes? What was it? Shoes, was it?
I'm not sure. I think it might have been travelling agency.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
right.
So
Yeah.
how many times did he want you to fly back to Florina on his tickets?
And he kept saying, "Oh, this is our player." He showed me around to all the people in Smith Street, but they didn't do anything about transfer. So after about a week, I was working with this fella. He said, "Look, I know Kovac from Footscray JUST, the president." He said, "We'll go." So we went down there, and I was there till midnight. And they found the president of Keilor Austria, and he came over. We signed up then. Yeah.
How fantastic.
Yeah.
No mucking around, they were serious.
So
They
what did your
wanted-
mother, your mother and father would have been very happy because you didn't have to move?
Well, that was finished a long time ago, George. So I think I was old enough then to.
Oh, you're old enough then.
Yeah, I'm old enough.
He's 21,
Were you
22
driving?
now.
Were you driving in 1974?
George, I was driving in 1970. I was the only kid going to school driving.
Did you have a license?
Oh.
More importantly,
No, I had license because when we came to Australia, I finished primary school, but they put me back in primary school here.
To improve your English.
So I was 2 years older than everybody.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
okay. So by the time you got to high school, you were.
So what were you driving? Was it a Holden? Was it a Ford?
I was a Ford XW.
XW
Yeah.
Ford.
Yeah.
Now, your career has included a real crop of really beautiful, memorable games, but one that really stands out is the Ampol Cup and the State League Cup games that you played at Olympic Park under lights. Take us back.
Well, we were playing against South Melbourne for the final, but prior to that 1 week, we had our best players, Jim McKay, Billy Wojtek, play for the Australian team. So we were playing without them. And that week, we played against South Melbourne Hellas, and we were told, I don't know if I should have mentioned this or not, but we were told to lose the game
What?
because if we already qualified for the final,
Uh-huh.
but if we beat South Melbourne Hellas, that meant that our arch enemy JUST would be playing against Croatia.
Ah.
So they didn't want just to be in.
Skullduggery.
Yeah.
So what happened? No one's
Well,
listening, don't worry.
Anyway, our goalkeeper kept up in the legs, letting the ball go through, but they couldn't kick straight. The ball kept going out. So eventually.
So even the best efforts,
Yeah.
you still couldn't do it.
Well, eventually they started scoring, and then we tried to stop them. But once you you can't pick up and start playing.
The momentum had
So
shifted, huh?
we ended up losing 5-1, and that week, all the Greek papers said, "Oh, South Melbourne was going to kill them, this and that," and we ended up beating them 3-2 in the final. So that was the best game for us.
So, what did you remember of the crowd playing in that game? A 5-goal thriller. So, there would have been plenty to keep everyone excited.
Oh yeah, well, you know the Greeks, they like to rubbish you after. Yeah,
Now, did you get plenty at half-time? What was the score at half-time, you must say?
I think it was 3-0 after.
In your favour?
No, we're losing.
You were losing.
I know, this was the game before the 5-1 one or the 3-2?
No, the 3-2.
I think it was, I'm not quite sure, George, but I think it was 2-2 at one stage, and then we ended
Okay.
up scoring.
So, makes
Yeah.
it even more important
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
come out the second half to nail it.
Yeah, I think the Adam, forgot his second name, he came on as a substitute 15 minutes before. I think he scored the winner, yeah.
So, what were the crowds like? Are we talking
20,000.
20,000?
20,000, and the atmosphere was unbelievable.
Electric, yeah.
You can have 10,000 or 5,000, but the way when you play against your arch enemies, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Where was the game played? At Olympic Park, was
Olympic
it?
Park.
Yeah, that means that they had no control over the hot water, so you would have had a hot shower, is that right?
Oh yeah.
Because if you were playing at Middle Park, they might have turned the hot water off.
I think if you win a game like that, it doesn't matter the cold water.
The cold water's even better.
Yeah. Yeah.
One big standout game, I think G2 was telling me, was the State League Cup final in '71. Can you remember that game? Take you way back, 1971, State League Cup final. You played for Croatia against South Melbourne Hellas, and again you won it.
Yeah, I think that was the one we just talking about.
That's the one you were talking about.
Yeah.
74 with Footscray JUST.
Yeah.
You won the State League. The State League Cup being the old top four series for the State League, right? Is that the top
Yeah, well,
four
I think
teams?
with Just we won about 4 or 5. Yeah.
But there was one in 74, which I think was played over a few weekends, the round robin with the top four. And I think Middle Park, for some reason, was where most of the games were played. Well, that's my memory because I was going.
He was allowed out.
I was allowed out.
He was just old enough.
I have this recollection of Fitzroy Alexander at the time beating Footscray 6-1
Wow.
in the first game.
I don't think I was playing then.
I'll check it.
Yeah.
But you got to the final and
No.
you reversed it and you won the final.
That sounds like they were doing one of those deals again.
Well,
trying to improve their betting chances.
Actually, the one I remember is we beat Heidelberg 2-0 and Steve Williams came and said, if I was still in, we would have done something. and the coach said, well, he said, we could have done something if you came and saw us.
Oh, wow.
I think it was just joking anyway.
So what was it like training? You would have, did you have a job in those days?
Oh, yes, we worked, most of the times we worked for ourselves with pizza shops and fish and chip shops, yeah.
Okay, so you would be working all week. How many times a week were you training?
4 nights a week, yeah.
4 nights you were training?
Yeah.
That sounds almost professional.
It's very good
Well,
positive
we
attitude.
really, we played because we enjoyed the game. We would go on out early and start playing in a circle, keeping the balls off. It wasn't like you had to go there and you sort of forced yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
And you weren't training, you weren't running lap after lap
Oh,
after lap.
no. Now, that Kirkovic, he was a great coach, his philosophy was you train the first half of the season
Yes.
physically,
Yes.
and then the second half, you just play games. Because by that time you should be fit anyway.
So when you started the season and you were working to get your fitness up, when would the ball be introduced? Or was the ball introduced from the very beginning?
Well, it depends which coach you have, because some of the coaches, they won't give you the ball yet. They want to make you run and run and run, which
That didn't please
they
you.
didn't go too well. No. Yeah.
Let's play a game G2 loves a lot. It's word association. You've mentioned how much you appreciated some of these players. Jimmy Mackay.
Jim McKay used to drink a glass of Johnny Walker before each game to warm up.
That was medicinal. Huh?
Yes, that was inside the dressing room in front of the coach. It was a secret. But
G2, something to consider if you're playing
To have one before each show to get through.
Any comeback games.
if you're as good as Jimmy, you can do whatever you want.
Do whatever you like.
Wow.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Is that right? A bottle of-
He backed it up.
Oh, yeah.
What colour was it, Johnny? Red
Right.
label?
His control was unbelievable. You can kick it to him from 2 yards and he'll control it. And he would set up Billy Wojtek all the time. And Billy Wojtek was a great dribbler, which you don't see today.
I remember Billy Wojtek.
Yeah.
Tell us about Billy. What was he like at training?
Billy was fanatic. He loved the game. He would.
Super fit.
Oh, he was like a jumping jack.
He still loves the game.
Yeah.
He still loves the game. You have a conversation with him now, and it's like having a conversation with a storybook, isn't it?
No.
His memory is superb, and he tells a really good story, and he talks about the old players, which is why we're here now.
Yeah.
So, if you had to compare Billy to a current day player, could you? Is there anyone like Billy?
No, not really.
Not even Daniel Arzani?
Well, Daniel just started. Everybody's jumping on it.
No. But as a style, not
Yeah, we're
as
talking about style.
style.
He'd challenge you and take you on straight away.
Well, yeah, I suppose a little bit, but Billy was so
Was it polished?
nimble. He would jump up and down. He'll dribble around you, he'll come back and dribble you again.
That sounds like G2. He used to do that. He used to nutmeg the fullback,
That's
and
not
because
true.
he enjoyed it, he'd
Not
go
true.
back.
Stay
The
focused.
centre forward was waiting for the ball to be
Ah.
crossed, but no, G2 would be spending time thinking, will I go around him to the right or will I go around him with the left?
I'm going to change subject.
Okay.
Branko Buljevic.
Branko Wiljevic, he was a great player on the left wing. He had a tremendous left foot, and he had very fast feet. When we played in the circle,
Yeah.
You get close to him, and before you put your foot out, he's already moved the ball. Yeah.
We're still talking about your left foot, is it?
Well, I was getting better, George. Getting better.
Frank Micic.
Frank Micic, gentleman.
What position
He was a midfielder.
Midfield.
Yeah.
Maestro.
He was a maestro. He was the general. Yeah.
So you had a playmaker right there, and you had all
Right.
these stars around it.
Well,
What did you do? Just sit back and
Me?
watch?
I just watched from the back and said, "Go to the left, pull to the right."
You played through that a magic period for JUST, right? And actually, a magic period for soccer with that transition from the state league to the NSL. But especially JUST with the imports and with these special players, Micic, Bojovic, Rujovic, a lot of the imports specifically.
Ristovsky.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, it's amazing players there. Right. You can look back now and reflect, but at the time, did you realise how lucky you were, or how good you guys were, and what you were producing at the time?
Well, I remember because I played against Rio when I was playing for Croatia.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get near him when he had the ball. You know, he protected that ball so well that you couldn't even get close to him. So I knew, even Zorai, I knew all these players were really good when I went. So, you know, I was really pinching myself to think that I'm here with them, because I didn't think I was that good anyway. But the Kikovic sort of was, so yeah.
No, they clearly the club for you were, because if you don't spend 10 years at one of the greatest clubs through its greatest period if you couldn't play, that's a given. So let me tell you, you were a good enough player. You also played with another fellow Greek there. Well, it must have been the defenders were the only ones who could defend, because the Yugoslavs couldn't sign any defenders. So Jim Kondarios was there when you were there, obviously. You played with Jimmy?
Yeah, well, Jim and I had a really good relation because we used to
On
talk,
the field too?
Yeah, on the field. Well,
But
no,
they
we-
spoke the same language, you see.
Actually,
English?
we just had dinner last week. We spoke in Greek, so the other players couldn't understand.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, we had a good understanding. If the ball was on his side, I said, "Jimmy, you take him," and vice versa. Which today I can't understand how the defense is playing. They're so square that they get caught out with one long ball. I don't understand.
So what you're saying, one would drop off and play the sweeper, just depending on which way.
Depends which way. You just swap around. You drop 2 or 3 yards behind and just cover wherever the ball came.
Defending set pieces. Do you believe in zone defences or man for man?
Man for man.
Responsibility.
Because if you give somebody a run at the ball, it's very hard to stop.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I don't care very much for zone defences at all.
Now, when you play zoning, nobody takes responsibilities. You leave the player to someone else, and that way, I thought you were going to get him, and he thought he's going to get him, and eventually nobody gets him.
We're going to take a break. You're listening to the Pioneers. Our pioneer this week is Jim Kondarios.
Welcome back to the Pioneers, Thursday night. George's favourite time of the week.
It is actually.
My only time of the week. And
It's your favourite time.
no, it is, you're right.
Because you get to do what you've wanted to do for the last year and a half, 2 years, even longer. You've been dreaming about this program for a lifetime. I reckon you were even thinking about it when you were playing down the left wing.
Yeah,
Was it the right
possibly.
wing?
Possibly. Probably why I kept coming back, because I just wanted to keep drinking.
Nutmeg someone. Now listen, our guest is Jim Kondarios.
Jim Kondarios.
Where are you going to take him now?
We want to continue a little bit with the word association. Last week
Okay.
we had Michael Mandalis,
Oh, yeah?
and Michael may have said on air or may have said off air that he thought Andreas Roussis
Yes, or
was
Roussis.
the best player he played with,
Okay.
which
Let's
is a big
ask-
call considering some of the players he played with.
Okay. Dimitri, what do you reckon? Jim, was Andrea that special?
Well,
You played against him, right?
no, I didn't play against him. I was watching.
Watching him as
He
a
was
kid.
smart enough to
right,
watch him.
I was watching,
Yes, he was
and
the
I thought
60s.
he was one of the best players that came.
We're talking one of the greats at South Melbourne, let's say.
Yes. Well, he was a statue of a man.
Is that right?
He was unbeatable in the air and on the ground. He was a one-man defence.
Wow. We're talking in the days of the W formation, where you had your two fullbacks, your centre back, your two wing halves, and then of course the five up front.
Yeah.
So you had this giant at the back, basically controlling everything.
Well, to me,
Did he read? He must have read the play very well.
well, he came from first division in Greece. You know, so he was a great player to start with.
So he read the play.
He must have enjoyed himself. He looked like he was enjoying himself because he hardly ever seemed to be under pressure. So he impressed me a lot.
Left a big influence on you.
He did, yeah.
Speaking of an influence, you were talking a bit earlier about listening to the old Greek soccer on the radio. And what impression? Tell us firstly what impression you got from listening to soccer on the radio.
Well, when I was young, we used to listen to Olympiacos on the radio in Greece, and the commentators used to commentate at 100 miles an hour. And
Go nuts.
I thought the game was really fast until Olympiacos came here and we played with South Melbourne against them. It was very disappointing.
Why?
They were terrible. They were slow, whinges, and they just...
They're only whinges to you because you understood what they were saying.
Well, no, they used to scream out to their coach, "Oh, guys, he's hurt himself, he's so..." It was just really embarrassing, really, because being Greek, and I supported their club, you know, as a young fella.
Aikistis. See? You should have thought about, you know, changing clubs.
Don't worry, they copped it when they came here 4-0 from Victoria as well. So we're right.
Mate, they're on holiday.
Yeah. Speaking of touring teams, you played for Victoria on a few occasions. How many roughly?
13, 14 times, yeah.
Oh, just the lazy 13, 14 times. In a great period when a lot of the touring teams would come out from Europe, mainly from Europe, and the crowds would come. What's the biggest crowd maybe that you would have played in front of? What team, or roughly which ones?
Well, there was quite a few. There's the Italian Bologna was here. That was full.
So when you're talking full, we're talking about Olympic Park.
Olympic Park, yeah. Oh, they were on the running track as well.
Wow.
Yeah, the photos of that show
Yeah.
that right up to the...
Fellas Mostar, we played against them, but I think there was a bit of crowd trouble second half, and it got stopped.
Can't believe we had problems with crowds in those days. What were they thinking, Jim?
Well, you tell me, George, South Melbourne were playing against Heidelberg at the Olympic Village, and they were burning the Greek flag. Now, you tell me, what were they thinking?
Not much, clearly. Clearly.
Both Greek clubs and both burning the same flag.
You know, as we've learnt over the years, you live in the wrong street. You live in the wrong suburb. In Greece, when they played Kondarios, I went there when I first crossed into Greece with SBS, and I was shaken. I couldn't believe the antics that were being, on show at Kondarios. People had lost their heads. They were throwing things onto the ground, onto the pitch, and yet the atmosphere, you could cut it with a knife. The football was exciting, but the silliness and the stuff that went on the other side of the fence, it was crazy. It was just crazy. So
well, it's hard to understand what people think when they start throwing chairs and things.
Tell me about it. I've had many disappointments in my days when I was, a part of a football club, whether we were part of the board or part of the administration. You do your best all week to prepare, to make sure that you cover everybody and everyone gets to enjoy a terrific day at the football. Because I can remember as a young man when I was growing up in Sydney, Wentworth Park was our mecca. That's where we went every Sunday to watch Pioneers, and later when I played for Prague, to go to ES Marks Field and to watch or to play with Prague, the crowds were different. Yes, we had big, monstrous crowds, and they loved the football, but they're a little bit better behaved than some of the crowds in Melbourne.
Hey.
What? That's the truth.
That's not true.
That's not true. I love the way you do this little backhander.
I'm a pro.
You think we're playing squash?
No, I'm not going to settle for that.
Oh, all right.
Well, I'm going to change the subject again.
Well, change the subject.
I want to go back to Jim playing for Victoria. The night Atromitos came, and they didn't have a goalkeeper for some reason, and one of our previous guests, Peter Blasby, actually played in goals for Atromitos.
He wouldn't have understood a word.
He was fluent. He was fluent in Greek. He knew exactly what he knew every Greek swear word.
Oh, right.
Having been at Heidelberg. Now, your memory of the game's a bit different. You're talking about whinging Greeks earlier. What happened during that game?
Well, with the
With the great
with
Mimi
the,
Domazos.
with the Dromitos, they had the great Mimi Domazos, which he's 3'4", I think.
3'4", but
Don't
boy,
exaggerate.
He's
Don't
a big in
exaggerate.
stature as a player. He was
But he could play.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed when he picked up the ball under his arm and he said, "Come on, boys, we're walking off because we didn't get a free kick." And and they had.
Did you say anything to him?
I said to him, "What are you doing? We used to do that when we were kids. In the village, you pick up the ball and go home." He said, "No, you come to Greece, we'll show you how to play soccer." I said, "You're here, show us now. It's embarrassing."
Nothing, huh?
Nah.
No. Now, you spoke to him in Greek,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that would have been fun to listen to.
Yeah, Blasby did tell me the story, but he couldn't translate it.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, there was Papa Ioana was here too. He played for Heidelberg.
yes, he did come as a
He
guest
was a
player.
gentleman.
Yeah.
He was a gentleman. I met him through Michael Kalamos. He used
Yep.
to play for Heidelberg. Now he was a superstar, but he was also a gentleman. Whereas a couple of the top Greek stars, they were
Painful.
He also, I think, ended up playing for Western Suburbs as well for a period.
Yeah, he
Mimi.
did.
Yeah.
Well, and a story that Michael was telling me, they ended up being 10 minutes late for the game. And
At Western Suburbs.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the coach said, "Well, you're not here on time. You sit on the bench. Here is
Greek international.
international
star
sitting on." He said, "Michael," he said, "he's the coach. He's right. We're late. We sit on the bench." He didn't kick up a fuss. 3-0 down. He
Put him on?
They were losing 3-0. He says, "Go on." He said, "What are we going to do now?" He said, "We've got 3-0.
3-0 down.
Yeah. But he copped it. He didn't throw up a sook or something. So
He was a humble fellow.
Yeah,
wasn't he?
yeah.
That's a real
No,
champion.
he was a gentleman.
He was
Yeah.
a champion.
Yeah, he was a champion. Look, there are characters, and we know them. We've met them at so many different sports. I've said in the media, there are those that have been around for a lifetime. Many of those are terrific people. Yeah?
yeah.
And there are one or two that will disappoint you. But the truth of the matter is, in any endeavour, the ones that survive, the ones that have made a huge contribution and have worked hard, also are respectful.
Well, in soccer, George, people with a lot of talent don't always succeed. They come in with a lot of talent, but they don't put the effort in, and you see them in 2 years they disappear. Whereas there's somebody with little talent but a lot of heart, he'll persevere and he'll be there for 5, 6 years.
Do you remember when Manchester United came to Australia? Would have been the late 60s. Just after you had arrived. You would have been probably too young, or you didn't speak English.
Not speak English.
Not speak English. How long did it take you to learn your English, Jim?
Well,
You arrived in '64. Was 66, 67 you had it sorted in Richmond? Because remember, every other shop in Richmond was Greek, so
Yeah,
you wouldn't have
true.
spoken too much English.
well, there was Greek cinemas. Now, when I went to Richmond Tech, we had special English classes.
Uh-huh.
So we did extra curriculum during playtime. So
My wife is Australian, and the first time I took her to Oakley, she looked at me and she said, "How long has this been here?" I said, "Yeah, in this form, not that long." And she said, "It's a bit like being in Greece." I said, "Yes, a little bit. But it's a lot of fun." It must have been exhilarating for a young boy from Florina to come with his family to all those kilometres, thousands of miles away, and end up right in the middle of Greece, called Richmond.
well, I didn't expect that, George. Yeah. When we came to Australia, we had some English neighbours, and the Greeks were 2 doors down, and they're always at your place, or you were at their place. So it was just like back home.
Why did you give them the key?
We
There were no keys.
We didn't have keys. then.
No one locked
Yeah.
their doors back in those days. Everyone had an open door. I want to discuss the transition. You were at Footscray JUST in the old State League, and then you were there at the birth of the NSL, which obviously was an amazing thing for football because we were the first code to go into a national league at the time in '77, and JUST was one of the 4 big teams that went through. Do you recall
The transition?
Well, do you recall the vibe or the excitement, say, through around '76 or the end of '76 when they were talking about it was going to happen, what your thoughts were as a player? You got a recollection of that?
Well, because we played few games interstate, against St George with Croatia for the cup, and Marconi. So we knew what to expect, and we were looking forward to it. And I remember reading St George at the centre forward. He was nearly 7 foot tall, and he was good in the air. And
Alston. Who was it?
no, I played against Alston when I was in Croatia, but no, it was another tall boy at centre forward. I have a photo with him, but I just can't recall his name. And he was top goal scorer, I think, 2 years running. And I was looking forward to the challenge because I heard he was good in the air. He was tall, but he couldn't jump. So, because I did high jumping and long jumping when I was young, so I had good spring. So,
Good standing leap, huh?
yeah.
Very good.
Did you think?
And your left foot was getting better all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, spectacular. So do you recall that transition? Like, say for instance, one thing, did you expect it to almost be the step to profession? Was your expectation that not long after the game would become professional? Is that what the players, because we've spoken to previous players who, like Gary Cole, who thought, oh wow, 77, 78, we're going to, almost go full time. Is that what you were thinking? Or
No, not really, because I couldn't see where the money was going to come from for full time. Because a lot of the clubs, other than Croatia, I don't think, because I was too young to be involved in money wise, with Just and Keilor Austria, I could see there was not much money there. People were always talking about where they're going to find the money to pay the players. So I really didn't think that we were going to go full time. The money wasn't there. Whereas where we went to Marconi, they had their poker machines there.
Yeah, big poker machines.
They had a lot of, We go and play there, and the club will be full of people pumping machines.
Yeah, and obviously they could afford to pay for the better players.
24/7 they'd be in the, they're playing those machines.
So they had an advantage.
Well, we got some players from overseas, but the money wasn't enough to buy good quality players. So we ended up getting a few players, which really took 3 years before they, sort of adjusted.
Yeah, we got something out of it. Going back to some of the players that I want to discuss, Zoki Ilioski, you played with Zoki, one of my favourite players actually.
Yeah.
He was another, maybe not as good, that's an argument for another day, but he was very similar in it, like he was a maestro like Mitchell.
Frank Mitchell, yes, he was very similar to Frank,
Yeah. So out of the two, obviously you played with both of them. Did any subtle differences that one more attacking, one more defending?
Well, Zoki was more like attacking.
Yeah, he's more of a 10 and a goal scorer.
Whereas Frank would orchestrate from the middle, maybe because Frank was getting on a bit.
Yeah.
And he sort of passed the ball rather than run with it.
Delegate and let others run.
Well, Frank was a very good sort of player. He also give you subtle advice. He'll say, push the ball in front of you a little bit, so you can kick it. Because I tend to hold the ball in my feet.
Yeah.
He'd say, just push it a little bit forward so you can get to it. Little things like that. They're simple things, but if you I haven't played in the juniors, so I didn't get to do all those little things.
Didn't have the grounding that most of the other players had. Favourite coach or coaches?
Well, Kirkovic would have to be my favourite.
Channel, yeah.
Yeah, because we're not only coach, but we become friends as well. Yeah.
Why was he different to the others? In what way?
I think he understood the people's character, their weaknesses and their strengths, and he was more people's person. He can be a good coach, but if you don't understand the human beings, you can't relate to them. You can't.
Man management.
Yeah.
We have the problem today. We have coaches who have been lauded and supported, and suddenly they lose the players. It's about man management or people management.
Was he a good tactician though? How was he tactically?
Well, I think this tactics is a bit overrated.
Yeah.
A player knows how to play soccer. If somebody plays left wing, he knows how to play left wing.
Well, we hope he does.
Well, the coach can tell you, listen, when you're attacking, you open up. When you're defending, you close up.
Yep.
That's all you need to know.
But these days, when a guy's going on off the bench, they pull out the iPad, and the assistant coach is giving him some pages to look at, and then they're flicking the book, and they're pointing to the book, and there's another page, and there's another
It's
page.
show business.
Yeah.
I'll
Is
show
that
you.
just for the camera?
I'll
is it?
show you how to do it.
I
Yes.
don't think they're just creating jobs for themselves. I mean, what that player's going to go out there and remember the 5 full scaps, what he used to do.
No, that's a very good point.
Well,
Very good point.
Well, that's my point. is
Yeah.
What do you
Nah,
think
I
about
think
it?
It's all about instinct. at
I
that
think it's a
level.
waste of time. Really, I mean, if you play centre half, you know a centre half. The man comes near you, you pick him up. Somebody's behind you, you tell somebody to pick up. You know, I don't see many players talking on the ground. You know, maybe because they're not there long enough. Like they play 1 year for one club, next year you see them there somewhere else. So
Correct.
they don't form a relationship between the players. Whereas us, we were together. I was there 9 years at Footscray. Kondarios was there 5-6 years, and we had a good.
You
teamwork.
knew what was
Yeah,
happening.
Yeah, and we always talk. You know, you say, "Hey, Joe, pick up on the left, push up," or you know. Now you don't see anybody talking. You know?
You played in a very physical era. The game was a bit more physical. The referees let things go. That was just the period of time. There was a bit more.
You ever get a yellow card or a red card?
Not one yellow card, not one red card.
Did Dennis Vutsinas ever speak to you?
The best referee was what was his name? Let me think.
Not Chris Brambridge.
Chris Brambridge.
Well, he'll be on the show in 2 weeks, actually.
He was the best.
He'll love you for that.
Well, I love him because
He's a good communicator.
every time I tackle, he'll say, "Great tackle," or I was ready to whistle for penalty. He said, "I thought you," because during a raining game, I slide tackle 5 meters. You know, he got the ball. He said, "I was ready to whistle penalty." He said, "You know, like you always, if you did something good, he'd say, 'Well done.'" You know, he always
Yes, correct.
So,
What about if
I've
you did
experienced
something
that.
wrong? Did he
Oh, he'll say, "Be careful." You know?
Be careful.
Yeah, be careful. Yeah.
do that again? You're
Yeah,
off.
Yeah. Well,
Top
Did you
people.
ever get sent off in your time?
no. Told you,
Never.
not one yellow card, not one red card.
Playing as a centre half, that's a stand. That's what
It
I
is,
was leading
it's-
to about
it's
playing
not
in a
what we
physical
imagine.
era,
Yeah.
where you would have been playing against the Kazminas and the Gary Wards and the Gary Coles and these guys who were pretty physical.
Well, here's the question. Would you rather take on someone like a Charlie Egan, or would you rather have someone big like a Gary Cole?
This is radio. No one saw that.
Sorry. But if you know Charlie
Yeah,
Egan, you know,
yeah, no,
you don't need any waving.
Yeah, no, I preferred Gary Cole. Yeah.
It was easier for you.
Well,
You can manoeuvre.
yeah, because the
Get his
small
body.
players are more nimble. They move too quickly for you. Yeah.
They're sneaky on the left
Yeah.
side when you're not standing in the right place.
Who were your hardest opponents through that era? Like which guys, like Charlie or any others,
Well-
gave you a hard time, or you found difficult?
Peter Alton used to be a bit dirty.
Bit dirty,
Yeah.
Peter.
Physical.
Not our Peter.
Physical, we call it here.
Yeah.
Bit of elbows. What about
Yeah.
Georgie Gillen? He
Yeah.
had some elbows. He had sharp elbows.
He was all right, George.
Was he?
He was funny, yeah. But Peter Alton always used to get Dennis ball, and Dennis always used to say, "Protect me from Peter. Protect me from Peter."
Sharp elbows.
Yeah.
What was Dennis Bowen like as a teammate and a keeper?
Oh, he was a great goalkeeper. On his day, you know, he liked to make things look good too.
Did he talk much?
That's
Oh yeah,
goalkeepers.
yeah.
You knew exactly where he was? Yeah.
He screamed all the time. Yeah.
I scream. Serkovic, tell me about Sedor.
Well, when I first met him, I was playing for Keilor Austria, and I think we sort of hit it off straight away because he's a really nice man, you know. And when he signed me up, he was there till midnight waiting for the president of Keilor Austria, and we formed a good relationship. And he changed my name to Kondarios.
Along with Kriatovic.
Yeah.
gee.
He always change their names. But look, we played for him. One game against Marconi, they were undefeated, and we had to go to Sydney, and we had 3-4 good players out. Even the Dennis pulled out; he was injured. And we went up there, and we said, you know, we got together. We said, look, we're gonna do this for Chiro, you know. And we ended up winning 2-0.
How fantastic.
So some of the players lost their position for about 4 weeks.
Speaking of success, you've had a fantastic time on the pitch. You played with some great clubs, some great teams, and enjoyed the challenges, especially the ones against South Melbourne. But I hear that you've had enormous satisfaction. Some of it may well be even more exciting and more satisfying than the stuff you do in the football field. I'm talking about your off-field partner, Marie, your wife, because you've been enormously proud of what you've done to raise the children. And how many grandchildren, Grandpa?
4. We got 4.
4.
Yeah.
Boys and girls?
3 boys and 1 girl.
That's
Yeah.
Names. There's a chance. They're
Come
all
on.
listening.
Denver and Taylor.
Denver? What
Great.
part of Greece is Denver from?
Colorado.
Yeah. They're great players. He's got a lot of talent as a centre half.
Wow.
We just hope that the coaching will be improved this year.
Okay.
Take note, coach.
Tell us about the 3 wonderful children that you and Marie have raised.
We got a son who's got Lucas. He's 4 years old and he loves motorbike. He rides 50 Pee-wee.
A 50 Pee-wee. That's a
Yeah.
tiny little thing that you
Yeah.
put in the boot of the car.
And Anastasia, she's 6. She's a princess. And Melissa, she's single. Beautiful girl. She doesn't...
Hey, hang on. It's Valentine's Day. Don't overdo it.
Okay.
Marie wants everything to be safe, please.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And Melissa with 2 boys.
Oh, bless them.
Taylor. Yeah.
So you've had a fabulous opportunity over the years to make a real success of it on the pitch, and a great success off the pitch. Tell me, in those early days before you were married, were they paying you reasonably well on the football field?
No, not really, George, because I didn't chase the money. When I joined Footscray, I said they said to me, "How much you want?" I said, "Whatever you give me, I just want to play." So it was. I think I got $1,500 paid for the carpet in my mum's house. Yeah.
I hope you, in business in later years, you become a harder negotiator than that.
Ice cream. Ice cream.
I think if you're fair and honest, I think things come to you.
Yep.
We don't chase any money, but it seems to come. My dad used to say, Jim will go out with $10 and come back with 20. I don't know
Wow.
why, but yeah.
Clearly, you didn't go to Crown.
Not very often. No.
Not very often.
Now you've got a little business, little B&B, is it?
Yeah, we got a
In
guest
Bright?
house.
A guest house in
yeah.
Bright. So
Yeah.
there's an opportunity to plug it and continue to.
Well,
We should add, Bright is one of the most beautiful parts of Victoria.
Yes.
we get a lot of cyclists because we can cater up to 40 people.
Yep.
And we even had Eric Banner stay with us.
Ooh.
The man himself, the
Mr.
Hulk.
Bogdanovich.
The Hulk.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
We get a lot of
Or
Greeks.
Romper Stomper.
We get a lot of Greeks that come with their arni. They bring their lamb on
They
a
spit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You cater for all of that. So
And the bouzouki.
Wow.
Yeah.
wow.
So, does Marie do any dancing?
No, she doesn't.
Great shame.
She does plenty of other things though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So if they mention the Pioneers, they'll get a discount. Is that right?
So, what's the name of the venue?
Bright Alps Guest House.
It's
Bright Alps Guest House.
Bright Alps Guest
House.
House.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
You're
mention.
welcome.
All right. We'll mention George's name. G1. Mention G1, and they'll charge you double.
That's right. Yeah. G2, you get a special discount.
That's it. That's how it works here.
Jim Kondarios, it's been a real pleasure, both to meet you and the lovely Marie, but to hear about a time when many of us, especially a Sydney boy, wouldn't have known some of the shenanigans that were going on in Richmond when you came. And I've learnt an awful lot more tonight about those fun and some would say heydays, the heyday of the old state league and the early days of the NSL.
Well, George, it was a pleasure to talk to you too, and I'm thankful that you invited me.
It's been
so
our
we can
pleasure.
Get this.
It's been
Mate,
a pleasure.
it's always a pleasure to catch up with people who've made an
Contribution.
impact, a great contribution at club level, and continue to love the game and support it. And tell me something, do you have a team that you support these days?
Not really, because as an ex-soccer player, I prefer to see a good game rather than follow a team.
Okay.
I lean towards Melbourne Victory a little bit, but
Okay.
yeah.
What about in the Super League in Greece? You still Olympiakos?
Yeah, still Olympiacos.
You haven't learned, have you?
No.
Old
I
habits
just
die
hope
hard.
that they put some more Greek players in there.
There you go. Jim Kondarios, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, George.
Well done.
Thank you,
Bravo.
George.
Canezo, yes.
Thank you, George.
Here.
FNR, Football Nation Radio.
Puts it Kotsanis, no call! Score!
Salamini for Cole. Cole on the run. Shoots. 2-0.
Lazanovsky with the free kick. Launches a rocket! Trimboli, what vision! Bath blasts. Yes! That's it!
Miljevic.
Here's Bozanic. They haven't! They might have won it!
The Pioneers with George Danikian and George Kotsanis on FNR, Football Nation Radio.